Hello, everyone, and welcome to Love Letters from your Ensoulment Doula. I am Samar Jade, and I am happy to come to you on this Friday, April 26th, 2024. For those of you who may be listening in the future, I send you love and gratitude and know that this message will resonate with who it wants to resonate. And this love letter today comes through in the form of the card I pulled, which is Our Lady of Passion. Our Lady of Passion. And I may read a little bit from the Oracle book deck, but first, I really would love to talk about what are passions, what our society considers passions, and whether or not we, depending on our identities, are allowed to live out our passions or allowed for them to be spoken out loud. Many of us carry passions that we never speak. I know there are people who have died, there are people that have died who are my ancestors who never spoke their passions out loud. And I would love to spend some time talking about the brevity and complexity of that. So passion, when I think about it, when it comes to my mind in relation to our culture, there are a couple of things that come to mind. One is this idea of passion being this uncontrollable emotion that can send us spiraling, or it can cause us to do things that uh, could be unlike us or even harmful. And the other thing that comes to mind when I hear passion is also the passion of Christ, or the suffering and death um, of Jesus. And I'm not going to sit here and preach or talk about um, Jesus in the Christian sense, but I would like to talk about how that archetype impacts our ability to speak our passions, to live out our passions, to allow us to even acknowledge passions, depending on what they are. And the fact that whether or not we live out a passion, that that all needs to be acknowledged. And when we don't acknowledge this uh, fiery emotion in our bodies, when we ignore it, when we decide that it is immoral or whatever ideas that we might have, we want to throw it in the closet and shut the closet door and go about our lives without that energy in us, where we're trying to deny ourselves that energy living in our body, which really, I believe, is what happens when we deny passions and the existence of them in our consciousness, in our bodies. It's when we start to do harmful things, when we start to say or do things that would harm or be hurtful to others. And when we don't acknowledge them, we can't keep things in check. And we allow, essentially, we allow the passion to sort of rule us with no sort of guidance or boundaries. So that's one part that I'll get back to. And then the other is that if we do speak our passion or speak our desire, that there's a fear of the disappointment that comes with them not being fulfilled. And so we fear disappointment so much because it's an uncomfortable feeling. And typically, in our society drives us to only uh, experience goodness and happiness, and uh, we aren't taught how to sit with disappointment and to acknowledge it, to acknowledge the grief that might come with things being unfulfilled, so that we are able to move forward in our lives. So, say you speak out your desire, you decide to try to live your passion, and it doesn't go as planned. And then you have to sit with the disappointment and the grief of things not going as you planned or you desired. Then there's a temptation to say, well, I'm never going to speak my passions because look what it did. And that is not the answer either, because that grief, or not even, or the grief or the disappointment, or deciding not to deal with the grief, is again, we're going to shove it into the closet and shut the closet and not deal with it. And then that ends up driving us and moving us in ways that could be hurtful to ourselves or others. So it really is important that we are holding we're holding space for both. And I have a couple of questions. Why does why is it when we encounter failure that somehow it also that's like the sign that means that we're bad or that we're useless? Why do we go into the spiral? I mean, of course, I know what it is. It's capitalism. But why how can we how can we untether ourselves from that way of thinking and allow disappointment, allow failure to be feedback, to be a love letter in a way, and repair and move forward? So, I want to take a couple of moments to invite you to close your eyes or soften your gaze and allow this holding of passion to be held in your body, deepening into passion. Where do you feel that in your body? What does it have to say to you? Allow yourself to explore that, whether it's through journaling, speaking it out loud to yourself, uh, having a conversation with a friend or um, your ancestors or source, God, whatever you call it. What would it be like to be in conversation with someone else and your body about your desires? It is healthy and normal for us as human beings to desire things. It is what we, it is our actions, either in service or to living out the passion or not being able to live out the passion that can be harmful. So if we shove the passions in the closet and we don't allow for them to have a voice and live, that's where the trouble could arise. So I want to invite you to be in conversation with your passions. Be in conversation with your disappointments of passions that were not fulfilled in the material world or that in the way that you expected or wanted. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And I leave you with this blessing that on this gorgeous day, on Venus's day, that you would remember how your complexity and your paradox is what makes you uniquely you, and that is beautiful. I encourage you to celebrate that in some way today. Thank you.